Chapter 1. The Prelude. Zelia stood shrouded in shadows, the chill in the air sending a thrill down her spine. The dimly lit room was a cocoon of anticipation, the reflection of the razor blades, salt, and gasoline flickering against the walls. Tonight marked the final act of her carefully orchestrated drama, and she intended to savor every moment. Years ago, Zelia had known love in the warm embrace of Jacob, a man who had swept her off her feet with his charm and persistence. But that warmth had transformed into an icy grip, revealing Jacob's true nature. A deceitful husband tangled in a web of lies while his wife and children enjoyed a vacation, blissfully unaware of the turmoil brewing within their home. Memories flooded back, each one a bitter reminder of Jacob's betrayal, late-night phone calls and half-hearted excuses. The photographs of his family capturing moments of joy while she drowned in heartbreak. Love had mutated into something grotesque, festering in the shadows of their once exciting affair. The moment she uncovered the extent of his deceit, her heart hardened, turning pain into a burning desire for revenge. Chapter 2. The Descent. Her focus sharpened as the doorknob rattled. Jacob stepped inside, shaking the cold from his body, utterly unaware of the storm that awaited him. "Zelia, you're home early," he called, his voice drenched in an unsettling cheerfulness. Emerging from the gloom, she held a razor blade aloft, its edge gleaming ominously in the dim light. "Surprised to see me?" Confusion clouded Jacob's eyes. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play coy with me, Jacob." Zelia stepped closer, every word laced with fury. "Do you have any idea how long I've waited for this? Aren't you overreacting? This isn't like you," he protested, backing away, desperately trying to regain control. But Zelia was no longer the woman he once knew. She had transformed into something primal and deadly. Chapter 3. The Reckoning. Zelia lunged forward, plunging the razor blade into his leg. His eyes widened in shock, disbelief sinking in as she twisted the blade deeper. She reveled in the rush of power as he fell, blood pooling beneath him. "You should have known better," she whispered, squatting beside him. No remorse clouded her mind, only the intoxicating sensation of reclaiming her narrative filled her veins. Jacob trembled, begging for forgiveness, but in her eyes, he was merely a shadow of the man he pretended to be, utterly defeated. With a vicious grin, she began cutting into his flesh, methodically shredding his body while he writhed in agony. Pulling the cuts apart by hand, she reveled in the sight of his blood flowing freely, a macabre gift for the betrayal he had caused her. Chapter 4. Into the Night. Once she had severed Jacob's limbs, she dragged his lifeless body to the bathtub, the grim vessel for her retribution. She filled it with water to drain the blood, watching as the crimson swirled and mixed, a dark whirlpool that reflected her rage. "Let's see how well you float," she taunted, shoving him into the lukewarm water, relishing the way the heat turned his skin pale. She left him submerged for 48 hours, the silence of the house amplifying her exhilaration as she awaited the final act. Chapter 5. A Disturbing Ritual. After the 2 days had passed, she returned to the bathroom, her heart racing with excitement. She reached down into the cold water, her fingers brushing against the remnants of Jacob. Pulling each part from the tub, she collected them with the careful precision of a butcher, the grisly trophy of her vengeance. Once removed, she placed the pieces in the oven, the smell of flesh igniting a primal hunger within her. She watched closely, anticipation building as the body parts cooked, the heat seeping into the meaty remnants of the man who had betrayed her. Chapter 6. The Grinding. After they were cooked to a grotesque perfection, Zelia retrieved the blender from the counter. With meticulous care, she placed the remnants into the container, each piece a reminder of her fury. As she secured the lid, a sense of vindication surged through her. She pressed the button, and the machine roared to life, grinding the flesh into a fine paste, a macabre transformation that erased any trace that Jacob had ever existed. Each pulse of the blade felt like cleansing, a cathartic release of every tear she had cried over him. Chapter 7. The Final Flames. Once the contents were blended into a thick, unrecognizable mass, Zelia prepared to dispose of the evidence. She poured the mixture into a garbage bag, sealing it tightly, her heart pounding with the thrill of her victory. The remains of Jacob deserved to be incinerated, so she made her way to the fire pit in the backyard. With fierce determination, she piled the evidence high, lighting it ablaze. The flames leapt high, engulfing the remnants of his body and consuming any trace of Jacob's existence. As she danced around the fire, the crackling flames sung a twisted lullaby. She felt alive, free from the chains of betrayal that had once bound her. Epilogue: The Aftermath. As the fire flickered and died, leaving behind nothing but ashes and glowing embers, Zelia turned away, breathless yet exhilarated. She had crossed an unimaginable line, but the chill of the night air was a welcome embrace. You could almost say it felt empowering. No longer defined by Jacob's betrayal, she had reclaimed her narrative, her own story now written in blood and fire. With every step toward the unknown, she felt unburdened, ready to forge a new life, one where she would not be haunted by his deceit. Tomorrow she would find a new cafe, perhaps one where laughter flowed again, or a place that would become a canvas for her renewed spirit. For now, she walked into a future reshaped by her own hand, leaving behind the ashes of betrayal and the remnants of a life that no longer chained her to the past.